Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Becky. For those of you that don't know me, this is B-Dunk's Astrology. I put out weekly astrological forecasts as well as full moon and new moon forecasts. And this is a forecast for the week of October 26th till November 1st, 2020. Entering into this last week of October, we have a mixture of energy, I would say. Some romantic vibes in the air. We have some decision-making energy in the air, some themes around communication skills. We also have some dreamy psychic energy floating around throughout the middle of the week. The week does start off rather light, but I think the intensity is definitely going to build towards the end of the week as we approach the full moon on Saturday. I think this week is going to go one of two ways, and ultimately it's going to be dependent on how all of these aspects are influencing your individual chart. This is one of those weeks where I think a lot of the things that we've been dealing with throughout the year are going to be coming to a boiling point. We could see a lot of unexpected events occur towards the end of the week, especially with the full moon on Halloween. It's a full moon conjunct Uranus. Uranus is the rebel, he is the maverick planet. So I would not be surprised if we see something radical or shocking occur around the full moon this week. With Taurus, Scorpio, and Libra all being highlighted this week, I think it's going to be a week of either breakdowns or breakthroughs. And this could be a bit of a check-in point for us too, to see how we've been chugging along throughout the year, how we've been handling our own individual drama while navigating all of the craziness that's been happening around us throughout the year, and how we've been handling all of the changes that have come along with it. Starting the week on October 26th, we still have a slight conjunction between the Sun and Mercury. So it's totally natural if a lot of us are feeling a little absent-minded or hazy. There could be some competitive energy, there could be some self-defensive energy, there could be some envious energy, some jealous energy. Overall, though, I think it's going to cause a lot of us to feel a little scatterbrained and all over the place. But thankfully, we will be feeling this brain fog alleviate towards the end of the week as the week progresses and Mercury and the Sun separate from each other. On this day, the moon is also going to be making a sextile to Uranus. The moon is going to be sitting in Pisces and Uranus is sitting retrograde in Taurus. This should hopefully bring in a softer element into this day. A Pisces moon is always soft and sensitive and dreamy, but this could cause some of us to be feeling a little too sensitive and taking things a little too personally today. Because this is a sextile aspect, it should give us the emotional adaptability to go with the flow and sort of roll with the punches with any changes or anything unexpected that might pop up for us today. And this could be backed by an intuitive understanding that all of these changes that we're going through right now are all for a greater good, for some sort of higher purpose. And they're all part of our growing process. They're part of the process of life. If we can lean more into the flowy side of Pisces, into the intuitive side of Pisces, the side of Pisces that is truly fueled by faith, we can maybe somehow feel a little bit more at ease with a lot of the things that are throwing us a curveball right now. Pisces truly does have this unwavering belief that everything does happen for a reason, that there is a higher purpose and a higher meaning behind everything. And I think there's a lot of strength to be found with this aspect in terms of being able to show ourselves some compassion and showing others compassion as well. Again, really leaning into that nurturing, altruistic side of Pisces, the compassionate, empathetic side of Pisces. There's a great opportunity for us to tap into our imagination today as well with this aspect, and really allow our imaginations to run wild a bit and really start visualizing some of the things, some of the Taurus elements, some of the changes, Uranus and Taurus, that we want to create for ourselves, create for the foundations of our lives. It's a very, we're talking about the domestic area of our lives, I would say. So what are some of these things that we would like to reinvent for ourselves? within that area. Allow ourselves to really visualize it and imagine what kind of home we want for ourselves. What are the sort of things that we want to always have in our home that make us feel safe and secure and happy and at ease. And as a retrograde Uranus is likely going to be activated by this full moon come Saturday, a lot of these things that we're envisioning for ourselves, we can maybe start to see come to fruition come around this time. On October 27th, the moon is going to come conjunct with Neptune sitting in Pisces. So this conjunction is going to bring in even more dreamy energy. This is the kind of energy that is going to make us very sensitive to our emotions, as well as the emotions of others around us and just the energy around us in general. We're going to be picking up on a lot of things around us, very sensitive to others' feelings, and maybe even take on other people's emotions as well. There's a lot of psychic energy in the air with this conjunction, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're the type to get sort of psychic, intuitive hits or downloads, or even have some really crazy, vivid dreams. There is an element of delusion and deception with Neptune. So this is something that we just want to be a little cautious of. Any sort of person or situation where we might be exposed to this, we might just want to avoid, or just be aware that we might be more easily deceived or taken advantage of with this energy. Our radar might be more intuitively, emotionally driven right now as opposed to intellectually driven. So we might not be able to use our rational thinking mind as well as we normally would right now. There is potential for some of us to fall victim to our own delusions as well. Feelings of paranoia or guilt or shame might be coming up for us right now, which could cause some of us to want to resort to escapist behaviors like dipping into drugs or alcohol or sex or food even. We can try to combat this if we are falling into that hole by harnessing Neptune's ability to transcend our emotions and transmute our emotions into productive actions of empathy. How can we tap into a sense of compassion for ourselves or for others? Tap into things that remind us of the oneness of humanity and make us feel not so alone in whatever it is that we're going through. This is the kind of energy I believe that will have some of us feeling like our dreams and our emotions are very aligned. So we can tap into this connection to, again, really envision some of the things that we want for our life. Neptune is all about making the impossible possible. So maybe this is a great opportunity for some of us to look at the ways that we have been limiting our imagination and maybe why we've been limiting our imagination. So we can finally stop doing that and holding ourselves back from creating the life that it is that we actually want to live. There's a lot of altruistic, charitable energy available to us right now as well. So performing acts of service and looking at ways that we can give genuinely and wholeheartedly. Looking at ways that we can give back to the world around us and those around us without losing ourselves in the process. On the 28th, Venus is going to be entering Libra. This is Venus's home sign, so she is very happy to be here. And she is going to be staying here until November 21st. This is going to bring in a lot of romantic and creative energy that all of us can really benefit from. Venus in Libra is truly all about harmony and balance and beauty. So these are the things that we are likely going to want to be striving for and are easily going to attain throughout this transit. If there are any relationships in our life right now that could use a little bit of TLC, that are imbalanced in some sort of way, or maybe just lacking some attention in general, now is a great opportunity for us to pour more energy back into those relationships, since Venus and Libra are all about relationships. Venus is the goddess of beauty and romance and art, and so her transits impact us at our heart, at its core. And with her returning to her home sign of Libra, it's gonna make us all strive for peace and perfection. So finding solutions to any conflicts that we may be dealing with right now should come more easily, since that's the common goal that everyone is after right now, is finding resolutions to issues. Libra is always aware when things are out of balance. Its main goal is to even things out and balance out the scales. Venus's main goal is to feel connected, to feel a sense of connection, to feel connected to something or someone. So throughout her trip through Libra, these are common themes that we're bound to be dealing with. Getting our relationships back into balance, getting the relationships to the things that we feel connected to and the people that we want to be connected to back into balance. I talked a little bit about this in last week's forecast, that Venus and Libra are both representative of our relationships, but it's not just our relationships, our romantic relationships or relationships with other people. It's also our relationships to anything that we value, anything that we find worth in, anything that makes us feel supported, anything that makes us feel cared for and safe and loved. Relationships to the things that we enjoy, the things that we find pleasure and beauty in. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so these areas are going to be subjective to you. But this Venus in Libra transit is going to emphasize our relationships to these things and enhance our desire and our ability to devote time and energy to these things and to these people, especially if the relationships have been out of sorts lately. Because the sun is in Scorpio right now, I also think this is offering us a great opportunity to really dive deep into the reasons and the stories behind the issues within our relationships right now, why they are out of balance, how they got to be out of balance. It gives us the ability from Scorpio to find the real, raw, cold, hard truth. Combine that with the compassion and the understanding of Venus in Libra. This should allow us to be able to have those uncomfortable but necessary conversations. Those conversations that we know we need to have that are going to really work through the issues as opposed to putting the issues aside. Work through the conflicts, work through the emotions, transmute the emotions, alchemize the emotions, and work to find a common ground where both parties, where the whole situation benefits from a feeling of equanimity and harmony and justice. On the same day, we also have Mercury making a retrograde back into the sign of Libra. Mercury went into his shadow to prepare for a retrograde on September 23rd. So we can think back to anything that we've been dealing with since then or around that time, any sort of issues, any sort of conflicts. Now is going to be a good time to find a resolution to those situations. Mercury in Libra is all about achieving harmony and balance through means of communication. I feel like with this retrograde of Mercury back into Libra on the same day that Venus is going into Libra, it's really a call and an invitation for us to practice the art of language. This is something that I've spoken about before in previous episodes, but the art of communication and understanding that it really is an art. It is a learned skill. It's not something that all of us are naturally born with and comes inherent to us. So looking at ways where we can polish up our communication skills. Where have we been not fair in the ways that we communicate? How can we be a better communicator with others? Maybe do we need to learn to listen better? How good are our listening skills? Are we the type of person that's constantly interrupting people or not giving someone a chance to speak or a chance to answer or thinking up of a response before the person has even finished their reply? Or maybe are we on the other end? Do we need to speak up for ourselves more in the way that we communicate? Is there somewhere where we need to take more of a stand for ourselves? This is the shadow side of Libra, this desire to maintain peace and harmony as much as possible, but in the process, sacrificing themselves in doing so ultimately and putting their own needs last. Libras are naturally very good at managing tension, but therefore are extremely sensitive to any tension. And oftentimes will put their own needs and preferences on the back burner in order to be able to objectively view both perspectives at hand and deal with the situation at hand. So with Mercury retrograding back into Libra, I think this is an opportunity for us to revisit retrograde, so revisit and revise any situations where we may have been falling victim to this tendency of sacrificing our own needs. Again, because Mercury's in retrograde, we're dealing with Mercury rewords, reflecting, relearning, revising, reinvestigating, re-communicating, re-informing, re-explaining, and applying these to the situations, the issues that we are dealing with. Again, these issues that we were dealing with around the end of September. Throughout that last week of September was the last time that Mercury was in the sign of Libra. So these are the situations that we're probably going to be rehashing for the rest of Mercury's retrograde until about November 1st when he comes out of his retrograde period. On October 29th, the moon is going to conjunct Mars in Aries. I think this is the point where the tension is really going to start to build up as the week progresses. Aries moon can bring up feelings of annoyance. We could potentially be dealing with issues surrounding a misuse or a misapplication of anger or aggression in some way, whether that's us dishing it out or we're on the receiving end of things. There's an emotional fierceness that arises within us whenever we have an Aries moon. Making a conjunction to Mars, there could be a lot of feelings of needing to defend ourselves, really protective energy. But because Mars is in retrograde, we might be struggling to do so. We might be feeling like we aren't able to take action in defending ourselves. And again, this theme of being held back, being prevented from taking any sort of action has been a perpetual theme that we have been dealing with ever since Mars went retrograde. With this conjunction, I think there is a calling for us to integrate the ability to assert ourselves with the desire and the need to protect ourselves, and doing so in such a way that allows us to feel safe and feel secure, which may be extremely difficult to do right now with the state of the world right now and everything being not so safe and secure. We'll be very sensitive to any sort of conflict with this transit, so we'll be quick to jump to the defense of ourselves or even our loved ones, especially if they are the type of person that doesn't naturally defend themselves. We'll be quick to have a compassionate, protective response and want to nurture them and defend them on their behalf. We'll just want to be mindful, though, that there is a propensity with this energy to be a little too quick to react. So that's just something to keep in mind today. Moving into October 30th, the moon is going to be making an opposition to Mercury, also making a square to Saturn. So this is going to form a T-square between these three planets. And again, I think is going to contribute to this volcano buildup of tension as we approach the full moon. This T-square aspect is really a demand for us to take some action. Saturn is sitting in Capricorn and working towards creating structure and boundaries and governance. Mercury is sitting in Libra, focusing on the ways that we are communicating and expressing ourselves within our relationships. And the moon in Aries is giving us that emotional fire to make it all happen and keeping us aware of the emotional attachments behind our desires. This opposition between the moon and Mercury creates almost a push-pull type of energy between the two planets. The moon being our emotions and Mercury being our thinking mind. The opposition is almost an attempt to bridge the gap and build a bridge between the two, but building a bridge can be hard. So with a T-square, Saturn making a square to both Mercury and the moon, this is the way that we can alleviate the tension between the opposition. This standoff, this frustration and this stuck feeling, this inability to bridge the two sides, the emotions and the intellect, can be relieved through the efforts of Saturn. Meaning any sort of internal conflict that we may be feeling right now, particularly within our relationships and the way that we're communicating within them and asserting ourselves within them, can be best dealt with through a Saturnian approach, especially with the authority that Saturn is holding right now as he's sitting in his home sign of Capricorn. We can really harness this energy to channel our inner authority, channel our inner power, to reinforce the boundaries and reinforce the way that we're asserting ourselves in all the ways that we know we've been needing to. Coming into October 31st. First off, happy Halloween. Yay. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. And we have a full blue moon. It is so fitting. I love it. So with this full moon, we could think back to the Taurus new moon that we had back in April of this year. And thinking of some of the things that we were working on then, some of the intentions that we had for ourselves then, and the seeds that we were planting then. What are the things that we wanted to have come to fruition? I did put a full moon forecast out last week, I believe, so you can check that video out for a full update on this week's full moon, if you haven't done so already. I won't speak too much more about this full moon, but I will speak a little bit more to some of the other things happening alongside the full moon. Any full moon is technically an opposition between the sun and the moon. And the moon right now is sitting conjunct Uranus in Taurus. So this is putting an emphasis on Uranus big time. Anything that we've been dealing with since around August 15th, when Uranus first went retrograde, these are the things that we're likely going to see come to a bubbling point right now. And again, a lot of the issues, a lot of the things, a lot of the themes that we were dealing with around that time could come up for us. And I think it's going to come up for us in a way that makes us feel not so comfortable. But I think with this opposition of the sun and Uranus, it really is calling for us to get out of our comfort zone. Again, an opposition is an invitation to take some sort of action to build a bridge between these two opposing sides of us. In this case, the sun sitting in Scorpio and Uranus sitting in Taurus. With the sun traveling through Scorpio, he's really making us come face to face with some of the deep, dark, buried truths and the monsters in the closet that we have been avoiding. And with Uranus sitting retrograde in Taurus, he's just been sitting and dealing with a lot of frustration and tension in a way. He is, again, the maverick archetype. So he's ready to go. He's ready to transform and take action and innovate our lives in a way that offers us more freedom and doesn't conform to the status quo. But he's been waiting for the right time to do so. And I really think with this full moon, it may not be the ultimate pop-off, but I do think there is going to be some sort of tipping point with this full moon energy. Maybe there might be an emotional precursor of sorts, and this could be just a buildup of some of the things that we start to see come to fruition more towards the end of January when Uranus gets out of retrograde. Again, this opposition is calling for us to make a change, to step out of our comfort zone. And with Taurus, it's calling for us to make practical, tangible changes. It's calling for us to understand that if we want to live a different life, we have to take action. We have to take practical steps in order to get there. We can't continue to do the same things over and over again and expect to get different results. That is the definition of crazy. We have to take practical, sensible actions towards our goals. And again, this opposition is just highlighting all of those areas for us that we need to do this. Because it is calling for us to step out of our comfort zone, this could create a lot of anxious energy, nervous energy within us. So it might be a really tense full moon. It might be a really tense Halloween. So it's just something to keep in mind and something to be aware of. And maybe it's a good idea for us to pay a bit more attention to our nervous systems today and nurturing our nervous systems. Maybe only having 1 cup of coffee today as opposed to 2. On November 1st, Mercury is going to be making a square to Saturn. Anything that has been left unsaid or undealt with since around the end of September, particularly around September 23rd, are things that we could likely expect to come up again right now. On September 23rd, that was the last time that we saw Mercury make a square to Saturn. Because Mercury is going retrograde though, he's making another square to Saturn. The last time he squared Saturn, he was sitting direct in Libra, while Saturn was sitting retrograde in Capricorn. This time around, Saturn is moving full steam ahead direct in Capricorn, while Mercury just retrograded back into Libra. And I think this is putting a heavy emphasis on our relationships and the boundaries within them, the way, again, that we've been asserting ourselves in our relationships, and how we've been keeping things fair in our relationships as we work towards a common goal. Now that Saturn is going direct, I think it's providing us a lot more clarity. We should be feeling a lot more clear in terms of the direction that we want to be going in and the direction that we want to take our relationships in. However, because Mercury is now going retrograde, I think there could be a bit of difficulty that we experience in our ability to communicate our plans or communicate with this other person in terms of how we're going to get there. In terms of communicating our plan and our preferences in working towards this goal. This aspect could bring up difficult, uncomfortable, undesired conversations. Again, anything that we've been particularly avoiding talking about, it could come up around this time. And maybe these are some things that we've been avoiding because we lack confidence within ourselves. Or maybe we're hesitating to say anything in the first place because we feel like whatever we say is going to be picked apart and examined, and we feel like we're under a microscope in some sort of way. If there are any business deals or important negotiations that have been left up in the air since the end of September, now again is the time where we could see some of those things get firmed up. Again, same thing with the last square that Mercury made to Saturn. If there are any important decisions or contracts or anything important that we need to do in terms of business and negotiating, it is best to seek the counsel of a professional within that field and whatever you're dealing with. It's just going to be best to get some trusted advice before going through with anything important. In all honesty, this is a bit of a tense aspect that's going to bring in a lot of difficult emotions in terms of us just feeling tested in general. There's an uncomfortable, judgmental tone to this aspect. Whether we're the ones being super critical of others, or people are judging us, or maybe we're even being super critical of ourselves. And again, because of this, we could really be hesitating to speak up for ourselves or say anything that we know we need to say, or really thinking about what it is that we have to say before we say it. We might be second guessing ourselves a lot and really just thinking negatively about ourselves, unfortunately, with this energy. Again, our relationships could experience some stress with this aspect. The way that we conduct the conversations that we have within our relationships will be important right now. We'll want to watch our words and just be mindful to not allow our emotions to do the talking for us. Emotions that are coming from a place of insecurity or hurt or defensiveness, because this only ever ultimately creates more feelings of separation and creates more distance within the relationship. This energy is best channeled into dedicating yourself into tasks that require hard mental work and focus. Keeping our minds busy with the kind of tasks that challenge us and test us in the best way possible. The types of tests that contribute to our growth as an individual. The types of tests that we know we can take on with just enough confidence, but still enough challenge that we are excited to experience it for the sheer challenge aspect of it. And that's all I got for this week's forecast, folks. If you haven't done so already, it would be awesome if you could subscribe and like and comment and share wherever you're tuning into this, whether you're tuning in on the podcast or on YouTube. That is some of the best ways to support the show. So if you haven't done so already, I would really appreciate it if you can give it just a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe. And if you have already, thank you so very much. I really appreciate the support. And if there's anyone in your life that you think might benefit from these forecasts as well, that would be awesome if you could send it along their way and spread the love. If you would like to book a one-on-one reading with me, I also offer those as well. You can head on to the show notes. All the links should be there, or any of my social profiles. The links are all available there as well. And if you are enjoying these forecasts, I also am accepting donations. So that's just another way that you could support the pod and the YouTube channel if you are really enjoying the forecasts. I hope you all have a happy Halloween. Have an incredible week, and I will catch you next time.